Hey guys, this is Cam for 15. I am back at it with another video for you guys, and I am back with another Higehiro episode review. This is Higehiro episode 9 as we get the backstory of Sayu finally revealed on what made her go home. And it was a pretty emotional, sad, very sad backstory. I figured the backstory, the reason why she left, had to involve something with a character dying in her past. But yeah, let's get to it. The episode kind of starts off again like where we last left off last week, where Sayu's older brother shows up and is ready to take Sayu home, but obviously, to continue in this whole thing, her brother's like, look, we need you, we want you to come home. Mom wants you to come home and stuff like that. They're very worried about you and stuff like that. And Sayu's like, no, I want nothing to do with them anymore. I want nothing to do with mom. And eventually it gets to the point where they have a sit down talk. And that's when, not Yoshida's brother, good goodness, Sayu's brother is like, listen, mom's very worried about you. She's looking like crazy. She's looking like crazy for you, to the point she's dang near going insane. And Sayu's like, oh really? She's really seems to care now. And Sayu's like, I don't believe the fact that she cares that I'm gone. And Yoshida brings up a question like, how are they acting? She's acting now? Like they bring up, like, Yoshida brings up a point. It's like, because what is it? The teachers are starting things up like, where is she at and stuff like that, and asking her mom, like, she isn't hiding or something like that, are they? And obviously, when we get more to the backstory, it's kind of understandable why the mom's like, no, this is not happening. She's just not going to school and stuff like that, yada, yada, yada. And essentially Yoshida's like, well, is your guys' mom doing this for just her own selfish reasons, or is she doing this because she actually does care about Sayu's feelings and stuff like that? And Yoshida's brother, or Sayu's brother, is kind of like, well, my mom's kind of more worried about the fact that, we just have her come back home and stuff like that. And that's when the brother's like, look, can I just talk to my sister for a bit? I promise I won't take her or anything and stuff like that. And she can decide on what she wants to do and stuff like that. So what happens is the fact that Yoshida and Sayu are kind of talking, and they're just talking about what just happened. And Yoshida's bringing up the point that, oh, it's just crazy that this came up now. And, Sayu's like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry for this. And you get a nice little hug moment between the two. And obviously, Yoshida's like, look, whatever decision you make, I'm going to stand beside you. So, it is what it is. Just take as much time as you need on this, if you need, before you go home and stuff like that. Again, liking the whole, caretaker dynamic, of the fact that Yoshida is being a good caretaker, and the fact, like, look, it's your decision on when you want to go home. If you're not ready and you need another week, then you're more than glad to have another week. So what happens is Sayu goes to talk to her brother in the car, and essentially, again, bringing up the whole aspect about, their mom wanting Sayu to return and stuff like that. And, Sayu's just like, I just don't want that at this moment right now, and things like that. And she goes on telling her brother, not into full detail, but into a quick rundown, like, after everything I've been through, Yoshida's been a really, calm and collected guy who's just been there for me, who's been telling me how stupid I am with running away and getting my life back together, and telling me I have more purpose in my life than doing what I'm trying to do. And he's really put me on the right path, to the point where now I want to expect better of myself. And obviously, I like how Sayu's brother's like, I agree. It seems like you really got yourself together. It seems like you're in a much better position than when I last saw you. And I like the comments like, at least you're more vocal to say what you feel like. So it was really interesting there, and that's when Sayu's brother like, okay, I can give you at least a week. I can just tell mom I can't find you right now, but I can at least give you a week. After that, you are gonna probably have to come home and stuff like that. And Sayu's like, okay, that's fine. So then that's when Sayu obviously calls her best friend over. Man, I cannot remember these characters' names. Obviously, the person who works at the convenience store with them. And she essentially sits her and Yoshida down. And it's like, okay, I'll tell you guys everything, what's going on here, and stuff like that. I'll tell you how I got here to this day. So we get the flashback of Sayu, and essentially what happens is when Sayu was in high school, she kind of kept to herself. She was kind of a loner, kind of the people on the outside where they're just sitting on the desk from everybody else and stuff like that. You would see some flash shots of people trying to befriend her. She kind of wasn't about that. You had some, flash shots of some guys asking her out. But she just rejected them and stuff like that. And after some time, people just kind of just let her be her own person, just kind of left her alone and been a loner. But then this one girl who I forgot her name is, because I didn't really do notes. But this one girl comes up to Sayu on the rooftops of the school building and is like, hey, can we be friends and stuff like that? And you just see these two characters, Sayu and her newfound friend, become friends, and they just grow. Eventually gets to the point where her friend starts to get bullied by these girls that I guess were, from what they were saying, like upset that Sayu rejected one of the dudes that I guess they liked, which makes no fucking sense. But anyways, in order, there's a way to get back at Sayu, because guess what? These girls were upset that this big basketball player, got rejected by her. And I guess you can say, because they kind of phrase her, Sayu, in the way as like, oh, she's a very popular girl or something. And she should, definitely be going out and hanging out with that type of crowd of people, the popular kids, because she comes from a very, wealthy family and stuff like that. But she's hanging out with this other girl and stuff like that. And hey, whatever friends you have, treasure those friends. And the thing is, what those girls did to get back at Sayu, instead of getting back at Sayu themselves, are just not doing anything, just straight up and just being fine with it, which is what they should have did. Is they ended up bullying Sayu's friend, and they did all these things and made obviously Sayu cry, or not Sayu cry, her friend cry. And then you get this one scene where Sayu's just walking in the halls, and then all of a sudden she overhears the girls talking about Sayu and her friend. And then that's when Sayu goes in the women's restroom and she sees that, like, I guess they dumped Sayu's friend or just splashed toilet water or something like that on her. And obviously that was very horrible act and stuff like that. And that's when Sayu's like, I'm going to be here for you. I have the shoulder you can lean on and stuff like that. Then after a few days, I'm guessing a few months, it comes to the point where Sayu just goes up to the school building and she sees her friend at the edge past the guard railing. And essentially her friend's like, look, thank you for everything you've done, but I feel like I've become a hindrance to you. I feel like nobody wants me anymore in this world and stuff like that. And what is it? And I feel like, even though you've been there for me, I feel like I've taken away the smile you once had. I feel like I'm just completely worthless. And like anybody that is bullied, which it does take a toll, it can and it will take a toll on somebody's mind set if they are bullied, because then they start getting those thoughts of, well, I guess if people don't like me, then I'm guessing it's not worth it for me to be here. And what Sayu's friend does is she's like, thank you for everything and goodbye. And she just jumps off the building and she commits suicide, which I figured was one of the reasons why she walked home in hell. In the opening, they kind of somewhat gave it away. The fact that there was this pigtailed girl that I guess was an influential character in Sayu's past, which got her to run home. And because of this broke Sayu down. You could see the whole thing. Now, the thing is, what happens is you have all these news people, these outlets going up to her household, telling like the family, like, is it true? Is it true? Did your daughter kill the person or something like that? So then when Sayu gets up, she confronts her mom, who we see for the first time in this series. And her mom, instead of being a comforting mom and say, hey, it's okay, it's not your fault, I know there's a reason for what happened here. The first thing the mom says is it true? Did you kill this girl? And I'm like, dog, you're just gonna say that to your daughter? I'm like, first things first, let me get something straight. The girl who was friends with Sayu committed suicide. How does it have anything to do with Sayu? The girl was literally bullying, that's what Sayu brought up. She's like, bro, my my best friend was bullied into this. I had nothing to do with this. Why are you blaming me? Why are you coming at me? Because what? And I'm guessing the reason why is because I'm guessing her mom got tired of the news outlets just showing up and asking like, did your daughter kill the girl and stuff like that? Because this can get into very even legal territories to where hell, even Sayu's friend's family could have charged Sayu's parents for like, well, it doesn't matter. Even though they don't know the full details of the story and stuff like that. That could also happen. Now, we don't get a real true understanding. Maybe it's more brought up in the light novels and the manga. We don't really get a true understanding if Talia went down to like, I guess a teacher and said, I just saw somebody kill themselves or something like that. Or maybe a teacher went up after hearing Sayu scream and they're like, what happened? And then they saw obviously what happened there with her friend. And then another thing, I feel like this is a lesson to go with, like, you have to take bullying seriously because trust and believe, bullying can end up having people kill themselves. There was a time at my school, there was this person at my school who was bullied because they were transgendered and they ended up killing themselves because of it. It's the thing is, listen, just because somebody looks like, oh, they're happy and they're fine and stuff like that, whether it's at work, school, or something else, that doesn't really show what they really look like. It's like they brought up earlier in the show about the fact that like Sayu always tends to hide behind a smile. Some people in real life hide behind a smile and there's like other serious things going on in their life. Like for me, just because I look excited and happy to do these reviews on anything I review on doesn't mean internally behind the scenes in my personal life, that doesn't mean like, oh, I'm all happy 100% of the day. I have my stresses. I have my things that have me like, bro, why do I have to do this and stuff like that? And some people just don't know that. And that's just in general. Some people don't know what other people's personal lives are. Like, you go to work with these people, you don't know what they're going home to. They might be going home to an abusive relationship. School, they might be going home to abusive parenting and stuff like that, where they feel like their life is worthless and maybe their only getaway is to go to school and stuff like that. And sometimes people put on that fake face when they're really depressed and stuff like that. And that's what usually depressed people do. They don't show how they're truly feeling because they feel like, if I show this side of myself, what if my group of friends just dip and say me like I'm worthless, like everybody else says. And that's what leads to the suicidal threat or the suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. And it's a very emotional, sad thing that happened to obviously Sayu's friend. And after hearing this, she's like, you know what? I'm done. And she tells her mom, like, if you're gonna be criticizing me for something that wasn't my fault, I'm just gonna get up and leave. And she runs into and Sayu runs into her brother, and her brother's like, where are you going? You just can't leave. And that's when Sayu tells her brother, like, mom thinks I freaking had something to do with this girl killing herself, and I had nothing to do with it. I was just being a good friend. I was trying to stick up for her. Now, again, to the defense of Sayu, I guess the only thing she could have did is maybe have alerted the school and saying, hey, my friend is getting bullied by these girls. Can she get some counseling to help her out with this? And can, you do something about these girls to stop bullying her and stuff like that. And the crazy thing is those girls are very petty of bullying Sayu's friend like that, just as a way to get back at Sayu, which is like, what? Because she turned down some boy. Some of these people who end up bullying kids are like literally, just some of the stupidest things. But anyways, what happens is we find out that Sayu's brother was like, okay, I'll help you on your little runaway facade. But here, I've given you enough money for at least 2 weeks. After those 2 weeks are up, that should give you enough time to be ready to come back home. And that's when you can call me and stuff like that when you run out of the money. Also, just call me if you get into any trouble or you feel like you're in danger and stuff like that. And Sayu's brother tells her, like, look, just go to a hotel. You should be fine. And stuff like that. But, as we see the time progress, we see that Sayu, ended up, freaking doing, I guess, sleeping with one dude, and stuff like that. So, and then, we just get to the point where, she walks around, and, before she walks around and then she bumps into one of the dudes, she's just kind of like, after some time has passed, like 2 weeks really, she's out of money, her battery's about to die. Her brother actually tried to call in her, but she just didn't pick up, and that's when she's like, that's what I just kind of felt like it was worthless at this point on. Felt like it just had nothing to live for. And that's when you have her walking around. She runs into one guy, and she's like, in this year's like, what are you doing out here? You shouldn't, at your age, you shouldn't be walking around here. And that's when Sayu's like, I just ran away from home and stuff like that. And he's like, how about this? You stay with me tonight. And Sayu even tells her friend and Yoshida, like, yeah, the guy was generous at first, but then after that, he kind of just wanted me to stay for just to have sex with him. Which, that guy, that's just awful and despicable. If you have a runaway girl from home, you should have did what Yoshida did. You shouldn't be like, I could just have this girl stay with me and I can just bang her, essentially. And that's kind of where, the backstory really truly ends there, because that's where Sayu's like, well, and then that's just kind of what happened there. And that's what, up until I met Yoshida, that's what I've been doing, just going from house to house, sleeping with guys and stuff like that. And I just kind of got used to the process and things like that. And that's when she kind of gets very emotional. Obviously, it's an emotional storyline. They're very dark. It is pretty dark. It is still a dark thing. Not as dark as I thought it would be, but it's still pretty dark and depressing. Especially from the fact that, as a parent, you're supposed to be there for your kids. Like, what Sayu's mom should have did is like say, look, it's not your fault. I know you didn't do this. There has to be some other reason and stuff like that. And the mom definitely owes Sayu a huge apology and saying that she's wrong for that. The question is we'll see Sayu's mother again, and will she be willing to apologize for what she said back then? It's going to be very interesting to see if her mom learned the action of her way and truly does regret what she said. It seems like the mom is more worried about her publicity than being there for her daughter. And then the only thing that mom could say be like, look, my daughter didn't cause anything. The child killed herself because she was bullied. And that's really the only headlines that should be out, like kid bullied into suicide, and stuff like that. Now the episode kind of ends off with obviously I'm gonna get her name right if she appears next week, but obviously Yoshida's talking to obviously Sayu's friend at the convenience store, and essentially Yoshida's kind of like, well, eventually she's gonna have to go home, but her friend's like, but what do you want to do about it? Like, what do you want to do about Sayu? Like, is this what you want? Essentially kind of saying like, do you want her to go home or do you want her to stay with you? Like, what do you want to do about it? Even though in the grand scheme of things, Yoshida is right in the way. It's like, this is a family. her family obligation. I have no right to step in front of that. But he could be that supporting member and maybe go with Sayu back home and tell the family, like, I guess her family, like, hey, you know, she stayed with me. She feels very comfortable with me. If it's okay, will I have your blessing to, you know, have her stay with me? I promise I won't do anything, and I'll make sure I'll keep her safe and stuff like that. That's the only guess, but I thought it was a pretty solid episode. We finally get the backstory of Sayu. Very sad, very emotional, and again, it goes to show you, like, you know, if you have a friend, make sure those friends are okay. You know, always ask them, like, hey, is everything going on well in your life? Because you never know. You know, they could be putting on a fake smile. Again, it's one of those sad, depressing stories where obviously bullying can take an effect, and that's just a real world thing. Bullying happens everywhere. You know, all sorts of systematic bullying, whether it's like from racism or just picking on somebody because of some of the most feeble things or just doing other things. Bullying's always happening. And that's the one thing about suicide, you know, it starts really with the bullying aspect, with somebody picking on somebody and continuously. And again, you know, the bullies, like, you know, bullies who bully people into suicide, I really hate people like that, because it's like, you know, then after that happens, you actually be like, oh, I really didn't want to do that just to make them do that. And it's like, no, because of your idiotic, you know, bullying at them, guess what? You made them do that. You made them put those thoughts in their head. You could have just been a nice person and just had left them alone if you wanted nothing to do with them. But very emotional episode. We're gonna find out what happens next in the story. I'm guessing we're gonna lead up to Sayu going home, and maybe we'll get a time skip. I know from what I heard, like, the light novels are finishing up, even the manga for the storyline's finishing up. I feel like the story might not have I feel like the story definitely is cutting out a lot of content, and they're just gonna freaking just probably do a time skip where they show an older Sayu, because I have seen what older Sayu looks like, and I'm guessing what's gonna happen is maybe, you know, Yosha doesn't end up going out with Mishima or Koto, and he's just, I guess, sad that Sayu left, and I'm guessing Sayu returns when she's older after a few years have passed. And I'm guessing they're going to hook up that way, which I think for people is honestly better. I feel like they'd be more cool with that, because I've always like, if you're going to deal with a character, an adult character, and a teenage girl where they're love interests with each other, if you do it where you do a time skip where the, say, teenage girl gets older, and then she goes back to the character, the main male character, it's fine as any, because guess what? Now you can say, oh, well, look at that. Sayu's an adult, so they can definitely now hook up. Honestly, I said, look, I don't mind it. If they go that route, honestly, I think that's a pretty cool thing. It would make the funny joke of Sayu saying, well, no, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm an adult. So, you know, are you willing to go out with me or something like that? Or I guess in her case, well, I'm not going to bring that up. But yeah. But I enjoyed this episode. So very, very interesting episode. Can't wait to see what happens next on the next week's episode. But other than that, I'm gonna get out for guys. If you guys like the video, leave a like. Put in the comment section your thoughts on this week's episode of Higehiro, as well as hit the subscribe button to get more Higehiro content. I don't know how many more episodes left we have. I think like 2 more, because either 2 or 3 more episodes. I think this is either a 12 episode anime or a 13 episode anime. Probably a 13 episode anime. I'm gonna check. So yeah, other than that, I'm gonna get out for you guys. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your Memorial Day if you're celebrating that. And other than that, guys, I'm gonna get out for. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Until then, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.